being on the road and going to business presentations across the country, and for a lot of reasons. I mean, when you start a company in the very beginning and you think that it's going to be successful, you imagine in your life what it is that it's going to look like when it gets bigger. And coming out on these occasions lets me actually see what we only dreamed about like 8 years ago in reality, and it's so cool. And so I appreciate you guys having me here. You know, the difficult thing about being 8 years into a business and having so many great leaders like the ones that you heard tonight is they don't leave me a whole lot to say. I mean, if you think about it, when we first started this business, I was doing a lot of the presentations. I mean, I would show up to some and they go, okay, you're going to do the comp plan now. And now I get here and I get to watch all these guys who I've seen join our business, who have become great leaders, tell our story really, I think, sometimes better than we can. And the reason is because it's personal for them. And so when I get up here, I'm kind of sometimes at a lost for words. I think, well, what can I share? What's my job or role here? Because there are people here tonight who are guests that are looking at this business for the first time. There are people who are brand new in our business who are excited about it and are looking forward to the future. There are people who have been in our business for a while and are, you know, working to get their next promotion or thinking about, you know, how to balance the time commitment for Ambit with what they've got full time. And so, you know, I want what I have to say to encourage all of those different people. And I really want to try to give you some insight into the company that helps maybe motivate you to move forward with Ambit Energy. And so, you know, to do that, I think it's important to talk a little bit about how we started, because I think it really all boils down to that. You know, the very first slide in our business presentation that you saw tonight is really my favorite slide. It's the most important slide. It's the slide that has our vision statement on it, and we read it every time we do a business presentation. But I want to tell you the story about how that slide got into business presentations. I don't know if I've ever told this story before. We talk a lot in Ambit, and it's become, you know, folklore almost, about this, Jerry and I meeting for the first time over a turkey sandwich at Potbelly. And that's true. We didn't know each other prior to Ambit. We had a mutual friend of ours who knew him, knew me, knew that Jerry was looking at electricity, knew that I had a background in direct sales, and recommended that we get together and talk about putting the two of those together. And so we had this lunch and liked each other, liked the opportunity. We both went through deregulation. We understood what that was like. So it really was not it was really more of a conversation about, could we be partners? Is that something that two personalities working side by side every day, you have to really make sure that that's a fit, or it's not going to be successful. So that's really what the lunch was about. It's more getting to know each other and trying to decide whether we could work with each other. So apparently I passed the test, because he called me that next Monday, and on Tuesday I came in and went to work, and we sit down. And at the time, he didn't have an office. He was borrowing office space from his brother David, who had a software company in Addison, Texas. And so I came in, and first day I said, well, you know, where do you want me to sit? And he said, you can just sit here with me. And so I sat down in this little cube, and we were both, and Jerry and I in this cube. And I mean, it was not a big cube. And on the inside of the cube, there was a little whiteboard that kind of hung up there, that kind of hung up on the side of the cube. And we sit down, and he said, you know, before we get started, I thought a lot about this over the weekend and on Monday before you got here. And really, I think before we start talking about tactically how we're going to do this, we should really spend some time thinking about what kind of company that we want to build. And you've heard him say, some of you, and maybe others who are guests here haven't heard this, but you know, we were really, it was important to us that whatever we did be something that our families could be proud of, that we wouldn't tarnish our business reputation doing, and we all thought about you. You know, we wanted the people who joined our business to be proud of their association with Ambit, and to be confident when they went out and shared it with other people. And so we were thinking about all those things, and we're sitting in this little tiny cube, and he reaches up with the whiteboard on the marker, and he said, I think this is what we need to do. And he wrote be the finest, most respected retail energy company in America. And I already liked the guy, or I wouldn't have said yes to this opportunity. I had other options, and he did too. So that didn't make me like Jerry more, but what it did do was it convinced me that this was going to work. And I'll tell you why, because it is very hard sometimes to think in those kind of terms when you're sitting in a little tiny cubicle in office space you borrowed from your brother. You think about his vision to be the finest, most respected retail energy provider in America. And we're sitting in a cube that we don't even own or lease. We're borrowing from his brother. And the circumstances around that were, I mean, if you were just looking at them, you would have given us almost a zero chance of pulling that off. And yet, he was unfazed by any of the circumstances that we found ourselves surrounded by, and was focused on that. And I knew that anybody that could ignore those kind of circumstances and be thinking in those kind of terms, we're going to be successful. And so, you know, those stories continue to be told, and I think all the time about them. And sometimes, and you heard all these great stories tonight, Jim and Kim's story, and Julie and Jim's story, and so many others, all kind of intersected with this opportunity. And, you know, they had been business owners for many years, and this opportunity came to them at just a critical time in their life. And everywhere I go on these stops, I hear the same great stories. And they for Ambit, they've almost become mythical. I mean, Jerry and I talk about your stories all the time. And we're so excited that those kind of stories are happening in our business. But I think sometimes when we tell them in a room like this, they take on this kind of magical aura. And I want to kind of strip that back. I was on the plane yesterday on the way into Champaign, and I used to sleep on planes. I can't sleep on them anymore. My wife told me I needed to stop. I apparently am a snorer on planes, and it's just not a good thing to be in the seat next to me if I'm out. So in order to prevent myself from sleeping now, I watch movies on the plane. So I put these headphones on, and I got my iPad, and I watch movies. And so I'm watching one on the plane on the way to Champaign yesterday called Muscle Shoals. And it's a great documentary. It's about this guy named Rick Hall, who was born just right outside of Muscle Shoals, Alabama, in this little town that literally did not even have a paved road. They had a rock road that got to the town. And most of the people who lived there did not have running water. They had well water. They had wood fires. They had outdoor plumbing or toilets. I mean, it was a very, very rural way to grow up. And they were all farmers, and they just clawed and scratched to just get by. And this young man, growing up on this farm, decided just one day that he wanted to be significant. And he didn't know how he was going to do that, but he said, I had this overwhelming desire to make my life significant in some way, and to not be defined by this abject poverty that I was born into. And so he went to the local high school. He had to walk 5 miles down this road. The buses didn't even come to his town. So he had to walk 5 miles every morning down the end of the road to get the bus to go into the town where he went to school. And you think about that, just that alone is incredible. I mean, how many kids would actually make it through school today if they had to do that? And this guy, I mean, every day, didn't even think about it, right? And so he got to know some different kids in the school, and he had a musical talent. He learned to play the guitar and the piano, and he hung around with some other kids who were musicians, and one of them had a father who owned a pharmacy there in this town where he went to school. And ultimately, they decided that they wanted to set up a recording studio, because the only way they could figure out how to make a hit record was to have their own recording studio, because nobody would let them do it for free, and they couldn't afford to go have a recording made. And so his father, the guy that owned the pharmacy, let him start one above the pharmacy in this little attic that he had. They called it Fame Recording. And then what this young man found out is he was probably a better engineer than he was a musician, but he had a real talent for figuring out how to record things in analog. And so they started playing around with these recording devices, and they started playing little gigs here and there and saving up their money, and they ended up buying a board to help them do that. And they started looking for talent. And he knew that they were going to be defined by the very first person whose record they cut and released. And if it didn't sell, their chances of success were pretty low. And if it did well, they probably had a chance to make it. And so they were at this bar one night looking at talent,